What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I am finally doing my official NBA draft lottery. Now that we finally have, of course, what the actual draft lottery is going to be. Again, it actually happened a little bit before this video came out, so it is really exciting that we do finally have this, and we finally know now where all of these teams are going to be, actually picking. And it's really, really good that we don't have to make any projections anymore on, will Houston have the first pick, will they have the fifth pick, this and that, whatever it may be. Now we do finally know, and of course, it is all going to be starting off with the first overall pick, which actually belongs to the Orlando Magic. They managed to win the 2022 draft lottery, and wow, do they have a pretty difficult decision, I think, for some on their hands. For me, I actually found this one pretty easy, but I know a lot of people are like really contemplating on who should go with that first overall pick. The Orlando Magic, I think, are right now, if you were to look on paper, what would necessarily be the thing they probably need the most, it would be a power forward. Again, luckily for them, there are two players that are both the best players in this class that definitely can slot into that power forward position. Of course, one of them being Jabari Smith, and then the other one being Chet Holmgren, who is going to be a real big mystery in the NBA on where he plays. Will he be, the starting center for a team, or will he go and play similar to what Evan Mobley did on the Cleveland Cavaliers, where he plays as a really tall power forward? And I actually think that is exactly what the Orlando Magic are going to do. I think they're going to take Chet Holmgren at pick 1. I would be very surprised if they didn't. I think it would be absolutely stupid, to be honest, if they maybe went with Jabari Smith, because I think Chet Holmgren is by far the most talented player in this draft class. I really do think we can compare him a lot to what Evan Mobley was able to do last season, where he was a 7-foot dude, basically, who played that power forward position. Then when Jarrett Allen went to the bench, played the center position. And considering there's been a lot of rumbles and whispers and news around the league that Mo Bamba will reportedly be leaving, I think it makes a whole lot of sense for them to draft another big man. And again, I think we could be seeing a really cool combination with him and Wendell Carter, because I think Wendell Carter low-key had one of the most underrated seasons for the Orlando Magic. Like, I just thought he was a short-ish center who, pretty much was similar to like a Tristan Thompson, but obviously I think a little bit better, a lot better now, of course, before the season started. But wow, did he prove me wrong. When I watched Orlando Magic games this season, I didn't know he had the ability to guard power forwards, switch on to power forwards, and again, actually be a three-point threat, and had a good mid-range on him. Like, I was super shocked, and he finished the season off with 15 points and 10.5 rebounds per game, as well as 32% from 3. This dude, I feel like, went very, very underrated, and I think he and Chet would be a really good combination, because both the players have a really good ability to be able to guard that center position, but I think also switch over to the power forward. And again, they wouldn't be as tall as what Jarrett Allen and Mobley are. Again, both of those players basically being 7 foot, and Carter, obviously only being 6'9", a little bit shorter. But I think it would be a really awesome combination to see both of these guys start together. And again, considering Mo Bamba's most likely leaving, I would assume, I think it'd be a really cool thing to maybe see again. Both of them start, but then when one goes to the bench, the other plays center, vice versa, and then again, see them start a lot of minutes on the court together. And I think that's the direction the Orlando Magic should go with. And again, it just makes a whole lot of sense. Again, Chet Holmgren, in my opinion, is the most talented player in the draft class. Again, a lot of people have their comparisons. Some people are calling him, Dirk on offense. To me, actually one that I really like to compare him to is just recently Evan Mobley. Of course, just having the ability to switch on the 4 and 5, while also having the capability of potentially being a solid defender in the league. Again, Mobley obviously going into it was a little bit of a better defender, but I think Holmgren definitely has a great mid-range, has a great three-point shot, and I think if the Orlando Magic were smart here, it's an obvious decision. Go with, Chet Holmgren and play him and Carter as like the, again, interchangeable power forward and, center. I think both of them could be a really good duo in the NBA. Of course, now we're gone with the second overall pick now. which OKC have. And again, unfortunately for them, I do have them, I do have Orlando taking Chet at 1, which really does suck for them because I think he would have been so good for this OKC team. But honestly, Chet Holmgren, even though he's a pretty big loss, there is a player who some consider to be even better than Chet Holmgren. And those people have a lot of good opinions to back up their reason. And that's, again, Jabari Smith. Jabari Smith is arguably the best player in this draft class. Even though in my eyes he isn't, a lot of people have him as the best player in their eyes. And I can definitely see why. Again, a 6'10" power forward who is extremely athletic. Again, his comparisons are absolutely insane, being compared to a bit of a Kevin Garnett type player, and again, a more perimeter-orientated type of Jaren Jackson Jr., I think is absolutely awesome. Again, Jaren Jackson being one of the league's most underrated players, I honestly believe he will take such a big step next season. I really do see Jabari Smith being a bit like him. Again, the ability, I think, to switch on the 4, 5, and 3, I definitely can see Jabari Smith doing. But it's mainly just his offensive power. Again, actually being a really good shooter, good slasher as well. He can really do quite a bit of things that you want, I think, as an NBA player. And this really does work out for OKC because the two main things they desperately need is a starting center and a starting power forward. And look, maybe you don't get Chet in, right? You've just lost maybe who you would have wanted to be your starting center, but right next to him is your next starting power forward, I think, now in Jabari Smith, who I think would fit really, really well in the team. Like, imagine how athletic that team would start to be, especially if, I think, if the rumors are true that they could trade up for Jalen Duren. I'm not saying that they will, but again, Jalen Duren's a 6'10" dude that has comparisons to a younger Dwight Howard and all that type of stuff. Imagine if they were able to get those two in. Even if they didn't get Jalen Duren in, I'm sure they're going to be looking for an athletic center. And that starting 5 is going to be absolutely insane. Really, really young, really good. Again, you've got really tall guards in Giddey. And I think, of course, Lou Dort, I would assume. I think they might play SGA a little bit more as that small forward option, I think, on defense next season. Again, even Lou Dort at 6'3" can guard players much taller than him. Like, it's ridiculous. Really, really tall team. Everyone's athletic. If they can all get their 3-point shooting up and much more consistent, which I think a couple of them can. We've already seen Lou Dort and SGA become way better 3-point shooters. Jeez, team could be crazy. Team could be very scary. And I really like Jabari Smith for OKC. I just think the pick makes a lot of sense. And honestly, in any draft, if you were to see Chet Holmgren go at 1, you would probably be pretty disappointed because you'd probably be left with like a guard. And that's not what OKC right now, but lucky for them, that's not what they need, obviously, but lucky for them in this draft, there's a bunch of forwards right there for them to take, and one happens to be, honestly, regarded by some people to be the best player in the class in Jabari Smith. So, yeah, I really like this move by OKC. I think it makes a whole lot of sense, and that's why I do have them taking Jabari Smith with the 2nd overall pick. Again, another team that I think's done pretty lucky in this draft because it's so forward heavy and they needed forward in the Houston Rockets. There's of course one already there. Again, now that Jabari Smith and Chet Holmgren aren't on the board, they don't probably really care a whole lot anymore anyway because Paolo Banchero is sitting right there. A dude that is another really good power forward in this class. He obviously does a lot of things. Again, 6'10", pretty similar height, of course, to Jabari Smith, but I feel like a little bit of a different type of player. Again, Paolo Banchero, in my opinion, I think is a lot better at potentially switching over to that 5 than what, of course, Jabari Smith potentially would be. I think Banchero, he is a solid power forward. It does a lot of the things that you want offensively. He's actually got some interesting comparisons here, actually being compared to a bigger David West. Apparently a little bit of Blake Griffin in him as well. He's not necessarily the greatest defender, which I think is what separates him from Jabari Smith. Again, he does reportedly need to be better when it does come to the perimeter defense. But again, this is a really, really athletic dude that can low-key sometime actually play make, like can actually be really good with the handles, pretty good with the ball movement, just pretty good with the ball in his hands in general. Just has like a really, really diverse skill level, I think, for a player of his height. And again, offensively, he is pretty good. He's got a pretty decent mid-range. His three-point shooting could definitely potentially use some work, but hey, for a 6'10" dude that's just coming in, you know, it can take time. But honestly, the Houston Rockets have time. I think they're still really developing quite nicely, and yeah, I think his offensive fundamentals do help out quite a bit for this Rockets team. Again, they might want to look to bring in a good perimeter defender at that small forward position in free agency. I'm not too sure how Banchero and Christian Wood, I think center and power forward duo would go. Both of those players would be pretty athletic for their heights, and I think, the floor spacing would be really, really good, and the offense would be really nice. The defense, though, might be a little bit inconsistent, especially if Banchero doesn't, develop straight away into being a good NBA perimeter defender. But honestly, the Houston Rockets, they're in a situation where it doesn't really matter at this point. They can figure this out long term. It's not even a certainty how much longer Christian Wood will be on this team. Whether they have him, staying on the team will be up to a big question. But either way, they desperately need a power forward right now. Like, their big man depth is honestly one of the worst in the NBA. And to bring in a really, really athletic 6'10" power forward that can switch over on the center position, pretty good interior defender, while having a lot of those nice offensive fundamentals and skills. He's just a really good guy that you're definitely going to want to bring in if you are the Houston Rockets. So yeah, I really like this pick. Even though he might not add as much defense as what a Jabari Smith would potentially to the team, especially out on that perimeter, I still think it's a pretty nice pick for them. And yeah, again, in another class, if you were to see two forward/centers pretty much go in the first two picks, you'd be like, damn, I'm left with a guard here. But again, this class is so heavy with forwards that a team like the Houston Rockets could, draft, again, maybe the third best power forward in this class, but he would be probably the best forward in any other class, some of them. So yeah, Paolo Banchero, absolutely still pretty much for the Rockets. They've done really well here, and that's who I would have them picking. With the fourth overall pick, the Sacramento Kings, this is a bit of a debatable one. A lot of people have them taking different players. For example, some people have them taking best available, who could honestly be argued whether that's Shaedon Sharpe, Keegan Murray, or Jaden Ivey, or even an AJ Griffin. But I've got the Sacramento Kings yet again taking the fourth forward in this draft class. Again, Holmgren could be considered obviously center, which I think he obviously was in college, but I think going to the NBA, he might play that Evan Mobley type role, which I've mentioned, especially on the Magic. But yeah, this is the fourth forward going in this draft class now, and honestly, I do see some people have them taking Jaden Ivey, 6'4" guard, but I just don't think the Sacramento Kings can take another guard. I don't think they really need to. Plus, Keegan Murray, in my opinion, is so talented. I really, really like this guy. Honestly, I would say he's probably one of my favorite players in this draft class. I honestly feel really bad for Portland Trailblazers fans, because I know a lot of them were kind of hoping they would win the lottery and they would be able to take this really, really skilled guy. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be for them, and he is now, kind of landed in the Sacramento Kings lap. For those of you who don't know, he's basically a 6'8" power forward that can guard the small forward position as well. Really, really good perimeter defender and floor spacer in the league. Honestly, I just would really like to compare him to a guy who I think could be a much, much better, of course, Obi Toppin type, Otto Porter, I think Jay Crowder type as well. And then obviously having the ability, I think, to develop into a Pascal Siakam type with maybe better, of course, perimeter defense. Again, he just really does what those type of role players, do in the league. Like, again, a comparison, a Jay Crowder, a dude that will guard the perimeter all game and shoot threes at a really good rate, and again, will always score you 9 to 14 points per game while being one of the best defenders on the court. But I think Keegan Murray has the ability to be much better than all of those players, and again, eventually maybe develop into a Pascal Siakam type, where he's just a really, really good athletic perimeter defender that can definitely score all over the court while just being a good three-point shooter. honestly, Keegan Murray, yes, he has the potential to develop into a star. But honestly, he's exactly what I think the Sacramento Kings should be looking for right now. Not a dude who needs to put up amazing shots in his first couple of years, but a dude who can come in and be a really, really good perimeter defender, and of course be, I think, good offensively as well, and just with the all around the perimeter, whether it's being a defender or shooting threes. Similar to what the Chicago Bulls did a couple of years ago, where they took Patrick Williams, where they just said, hey, we need a really good perimeter defender, we need a good shooter, let's take this guy. I think Keegan Murray can obviously do that, but way better. I've liked Keegan Murray a lot, and he'd be perfect for Sacramento. Again, they've got some shot creators. They've got De'Aaron Fox. They've got, of course, Domantas Sabonis. Both of those dudes can put up big shots. But now that they've lost Buddy Hield, and there's a rumor, Harrison Barnes could be getting traded, something that Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, and even Davion Mitchell, if he starts next season, don't have is none of them are particularly good three-point shooters. And all of them, I wouldn't say any of them besides Davion Mitchell are consistent perimeter guys either. That's why I think Keegan Murray would just be so perfect for this team. Get him in, put him on the perimeter, make him defend, and make him shoot. And who cares if he only averages you like 8 or 9 points per game in his first year? As long as he's hitting threes consistently and putting up good defense, that's the type of stuff that's going to get this, Sacramento Kings to the playoffs for like the first time in a billion years. And hey, if it all goes well, he could develop into being a 20-point per game type scorer, similar to a Pascal Siakam. But again, this is the type of guy I think they need to be taken at pick 4. Not another guard like Jaden Ivey. Yes, he would help out a lot, but again, Davion Mitchell I wouldn't say is as good as Jaden Ivey, but he ticks a lot of the boxes that Jaden Ivey already does, and I just don't think you need another one. Plus, they really like Davion Mitchell, and I think he'll potentially start next year. So let's just say they get Keegan Murray, and they keep Harrison Barnes. I think that team could 100% contend for the playoffs, especially in a weaker, Western Conference. Plus, get a good coach and fill out that bench. You've got Davion Mitchell at point, De'Aaron Fox at the 2, Harrison Barnes at the 3, Keegan Murray at the 4, and Domantas Sabonis at that 5. That starting 5 has got a lot that you need. Shot creating, 3-point shooting, perimeter defense, maybe lacks on interior defense. But yeah, I think that's a playoff team for sure, especially if they get a good coach and get that bench going. Alright, so with the 5th overall pick now, every single player I've had going has, of course, been basically a forward/center. But again, I'm actually going to be taking a guard now with the Detroit Pistons. I think they will probably need a guard, especially considering it is rumored that they really don't know what they want to do with Jeremy Grant. There's rumors they could, of course, trade him, but I think they could even contract extend him, especially if they don't like the offers. And again, they've already got some nice, good forwards on that team. I think it is a big mystery on what they're going to be doing with their guards. I think they might be looking to do, potentially Cade Cunningham could play the 2. He could play the 1 here and there as well. No one really knows what's going to be going on there, especially, considering they did start Killian Hayes for a lot this year. But I just wonder, what are they going to be looking at here? Are they going to be looking for that point guard, or are they going to be looking for that shooting guard? And I honestly think they might just go with potentially just a player who can really do the wing type of role, which in my opinion is Shaedon Sharpe. I think they might go Shaedon Sharpe here. I know a lot of people would have them taking Jaden Ivey, but I'm just not too sure of it. I think they will like Cade Cunningham to play maybe that point guard type of position for the foreseeable future. I really don't know what's going to be going on with Killian Hayes. I would assume they would be bringing him off the bench, but I don't know what's going to be going on there. Shaedon Sharpe, though, is a really, really good player that I think would just work really good for the team. He's a 6'6" shooting guard that can definitely potentially switch over to that small forward position. Again, in high school, I believe some websites actually had him ranked as the #1 player in the draft class. He has fallen off a little bit, but that's because I think so many of these forwards have shown just so much. He's projected to go 4 to 8 right now. But again, I think I'll just have them taking him at pick 5. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. Again, Jaden Ivey would be really cool and all, but I just wonder if they would rather go for that, again, player that doesn't necessarily have to be a playmaker, which I think Jaden Ivey would want to be in the league. I think that Jaden Ivey's the type of dude that wants the ball in his hands. He wants to be setting up the plays, doing all that type of stuff. And considering they've already got Cade and they've already got Killian Hayes potentially off the bench, I would go for a more shot-creating wing in Shaedon Sharpe, who, again, basically what he's been known to be able to do is be a really good knockdown shooter. He potentially, again, does need to have some work on his shot selection, but he has been known to be a pretty good three-point shooter, pretty good mid-range as well, and a very athletic dude that can definitely cut to the basket, and of course, you know, again, get those dunks in, just be a really good slasher in the league. And again, he does stand out for his size. He's got a really strong build as well. I think he's an NBA ready type dude. Look, his shot creation might struggle to, you know, start off with, but again, I think he would be a future starting shooting guard that the Detroit Pistons would look at. And as I said, considering they've already got a couple of those dudes that I think want to play make and want to set up the team's offense in Cade Cunningham and Killian Hayes, I think you would rather go again for that wing that can definitely shot create and can slash and be potentially a pretty good perimeter defender down the line, rather than Jaden Ivey, who, again, is a really good perimeter defender, but I also think he wants the ball in his hands. He wants to be the number one playmaker, and I think he would excel maybe potentially better at that down the line. So again, that's why I've kind of got the Pistons taking Shaedon Sharpe. He also, who knows, could potentially come out of this draft class as being one of the best. I would say I like Ivy a little bit more than him, but I think for the Detroit Pistons case, it would be better to go for that taller, better shot creating guard. I just think he fits the system a little bit more than what potentially Jaden Ivey does. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to comment your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you guys agree with my top 5 mock draft? Do you guys not? Of course, I would definitely like to know. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channel, my IRL/Long channel. All of them will be linked in the description down below, and check out my podcast as well if you haven't already, which will all be linked in the description down below. But as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.